If you want to go back and understand why we're having these conversations about reparations, why the racial wealth gap exists, you can do no better than looking back at Lowndes County.
Lowndes County was one of the poorest counties in the country.
It was 80% African American, and in 1965, there were no black people registered to vote in Lowndes County, Alabama.
It was a dangerous time.
People were followed, people could lose their jobs.
A lot of black people came up missing. That's why it's called Bloody Lowndes.
It is called that because of the absolute unrelenting violence if you're trying to register to vote.
They were literally putting their lives on the line.
And they still organize, and still they try and vote.
We wanted a movement that would survive the loss of our lives.
The strength will come from the work together.
We weren't just interested in the vote. We were interested in changing who ran the county.
In Alabama, you could have an independent party.
This was a real effort to have black people participate in government.
The white establishment saw it as a fundamental threat. We saw it as a fundamental necessity.
This is a play for power.
We live in a world that is so heavily shaped by that movement.
We have to continue to tell the story of how we got to where we are today.
This was the time that I remember. It was just before Nam, and all that place brought home to us. For we were attracted to the city out of rural America by the power and the glitter. For even if it did not hold, there was then a center. It was way louder and brighter than provincial facsimiles. It roared, it clattered, it battered, and it actually mattered. It sucked us in. But we did not get it, chumps that we were, that we had been lured there. All I was a 20-year-old with 20/20 vision, and now I wanted to be in on the action. For I wanted to go over to those in the know, to smother conscience. I too wanted to be on the take, but with style and cool, if not grace. For there were no minimalists there. There were then aesthetics in our off-avenue caves, but who came out on the Sabbath to party. And one guide to the underground took me to the Newport Jazz Festival, and from there I learned of things further downtown. Coltrane, Mingus, and Monk, and much more. But I never touched smack of the half note, the five-spot, dangerous stuff on stage, loft parties where ideas too were imbibed, the vanguard and the nightlife, that fissure between the worldly wise and self-immolation. So that an economy where it was foremost that things worked according to plan, improvisation the suit of the Antichrist, but something in Lyndon's hard scrabble responded to the back of the bus, though not before Bobby's Bay of Pigs. Then later the Marial invasion would pay us back, but it put gringo sugar brigades on notice that civil rights would not be tolerated during Freedom Summer. Pack your bags, gringo, and go home. Yo no hablo inglés. For if the nightlife had not begun to alter my reflexes, I just might have re-upped, proving to me now personal corruption of value. Because I myself sure as shit didn't know which was the dirty end of the stick.
We are on a mission to cultivate global equity by increasing economic mobility. Our focus is on providing vocational and educational opportunities to women and girls from the most marginalized communities around the world. We seek to ensure that every girl and woman has the skills and knowledge she needs to be a catalyst for change to make rural communities self-sufficient and sustainable. The programs naturally address 14 out of 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals, while effectively serving rural communities in 93 global countries. They align people and planet in harmony for scalable, lasting system change solutions. Knowledge provides resiliency and self-management for rural communities. From solar engineering and women's health to digital literacy and beekeeping, our educational programs offer unique learning opportunities. Putting women and girls at the heart of our work, Barefoot College International ensures they have the knowledge and skills that can help transform their lives, the lives of their families, and their communities. For people and for climate, solar-powered energy is a bright solution. Best known for our solar education, we train rural, semi-illiterate women, known as the Solar Mamas, on the benefits of and how to assemble, install, and maintain solar equipment. Once the Solar Mamas have completed training, they have the knowledge and skills needed to solar electrify their entire village. When trainees return home, they spread their new wealth of knowledge to their local communities, reaping the benefits of their learning to many others. My name is Eno Epe Akomeri, and I am a solar mama. Together with Barefoot College International, we are acting for the health and well-being of people and the planet. Join us, contribute to our cause, spread the word about the Barefoot movement, or make a donation as we build solutions in countries and communities around the world.
You know when you're coming down the Albion Ridge and you first see the ocean and the Albion Bridge. It's a breathtaking view, it's an inspiration, a celebration of creation. And the old guy down by the Albion store says they ain't making bridges like that no more. Music on the front porch, cold one in the fridge. Gonna sing a song about the Albion Bridge. We don't need a 4-lane bridge on a windy 2-lane road. The pretty little bridge that we got helps keep the traffic safe and slow. She's a national treasure, don't you know? And the people aren't gonna let her go. Look out, Department of Transportation, you're going up against the Albion Nation. And the old guy down by the Albion store says they ain't making bridges like that no more. Music on the front porch, cold one in the fridge. Let's all sing a song to save the Albion Bridge. Jerry and Shirley and Cousin Midge, everybody wanna save the Albion Bridge. Everybody wanna save the Albion Bridge.
So brace the elbow here. I come here, but I gotta watch out for that riot. Oh shit, okay? Okay. But I pull his arm straight this way. See how the twisting is what gets it. It's not an arm bar. What I'm trying to do is rip out some tendons. So here, if he tries to do a push-up here, there's a little hole right here, a little gap, and just come right through it. Just now I have both arms, I can handcuff him, knock him out, or and just let him go.
Handcuff him or knock him out.
Well, I'd rather see a police officer do that than shoot the guy. You know what I mean? And they do 17 times. Yeah.
Have you always wanted to make a series about British wildlife?
Well, yes. I mean, it's just internal BBC politics, in point of fact. I joined in 1952, and television was restricted to London only. Bristol had a natural history unit in the radio, but it didn't have television. So we had a great meeting, and they said, look here, you're doing natural history, and I think we should come to some agreement on this, because when television comes here, we want to do natural history television. Tell you what, we'll do British natural history, and you can do all this stuff around in Africa. How would that do?
Right.
And I said, that suits me down to the ground. So the result was I was not allowed to make programs about the British natural history. So this is a great ambition fulfilled.
Is that a true story?
Yeah, of course it is. What? Yeah, absolutely so.
Well,
A floresta, os rios é a nossa casa, onde a gente se mantém.
Porque o Uruê-Uauau é como se fosse uma barreira.
Tudo desmatado.
Ela é, pra mim, no meu ponto de vista, o coração, não do Brasil, mas sim do planeta em geral.
O sonho brasileiro de quem está vivendo aqui é ter seu pedacinho de terra para poder trabalhar, né? Tirar ali o seu sustento. Produzindo alguma coisa, plantando para fazer nosso Brasil para frente. Eu mesmo falo, eu nunca vi nada de índio.
Fala, ninguém nunca viu, não.
É, só fala, né?
E o que eu fico revoltado é que a gente ainda é considerado bandido, pessoas que atrapalham o país, entendeu?
Desce no coco, vai estar no rio. Eu tô ali, eu acho. O cara vai estar ali, né? Vai, continua.
A Associação do Rio Bonito dizem que querem sua terra. Mas, no meu ponto de vista, eu acho que eles querem mais do que a terra. Eles querem acabar com o povo indígena, acabar com os isolados. A gente não vai permitir que aconteça, não.
Her father was one of Britain's greatest poets, but her mother, hoping to steer her away from those dangerous poetic tendencies, made sure she received tutoring in math and music, and it worked. Today, Ada Lovelace is considered by many to be the first author of a computer program, despite living a century before the invention of the modern computer. As long ago as the 1840s, Lovelace envisioned machines that could manipulate symbols instead of just numbers. And while there are some who would debate her title as world's first programmer, there's no denying her influence as a gifted mathematician who was also way ahead of her time. Her father was the poet Lord Byron, and while he wasn't around for much of his daughter's life, he too encouraged her to pursue a career in science. In 1833, young Ada was introduced to Charles Babbage, a mathematics professor at Cambridge University, who today is commonly recognized as the father of the computer. Ada was 17, Babbage was 42, but intellectually they were peers. Ada soon met and married William King, the Count of Lovelace, and took on all the stuff that went with being a nobleman, wife, and mother, but she continued to correspond with Babbage for the next 2 decades. Babbage's most notable invention was the analytical engine, a brass and iron steam-powered machine he first envisioned in 1837. It included a central processing unit called the mill and expandable memory, which he called the store. Controlled by punched cards, which could be used to input data, the engine could be programmed to carry out different mathematical operations. In 1843, Babbage asked Ada Lovelace to translate a description of his engine written by an Italian mathematician. Over the next 9 months, Lovelace did just that, but also appended her own set of notes, which ended up being 3 times longer than the actual translation. They included some of Babbage's own calculations, at least some of which she found errors in and corrected, but to demonstrate the machine's possible applications, she also described how it could be used to calculate an arcane, brain-teasing sequence of figures known as Bernoulli numbers. She proved it by diagramming the computations that the analytical engine would make, which, believe it or not, looked like this. Essentially, she had written a computer algorithm. She also speculated that the device might be used beyond numbers and could be used to manipulate anything within a fixed set of rules. She said it could be used for both practical and scientific purposes, and it might one day compose elaborate pieces of music of any complexity or extent. Basically all the stuff that we use computers for today. While the analytical engine was never built, Lovelace's translation was published and well received, earning her fans in Britain's scientific community, like pioneering electrochemist Michael Faraday. In 1852, at the age of 36, Lovelace died of cancer. It wasn't until 101 years later that her work was republished, just as people were starting to actually build the computers that she envisioned. And it became clear how prescient she was. Lovelace liked to call herself an analyst and metaphysician, but Babbage called her the enchantress of numbers.
They're back and as raucous as ever. Russian punk collective Pussy Riot. And they have one central theme: Vladimir Putin and Russia's war on Ukraine.
The Putin state, they need war. They cannot live without that.
The final rehearsals. Maria Alokina, who's often called a hooligan and enemy of the state inside Russia, is again making international headlines. In late April, she escaped house arrest in Moscow, evading police surveillance. Dressed as a food delivery courier, she crossed the border under a false identity.
I want to perform. I want to speak out against the war in Ukraine, and I want myself and us to be heard.
In 2011, Maria Alokina became one of Pussy Riot's founding members. She took part in their protests and stood trial. Now she's taking to the stage to protest a war, though in Russia the media is banned from calling it a war. Her lyrics tell of a blood-drenched world and Moscow going up in flames, songs that could make it difficult for her to return to Russia anytime soon. Maria Alokina is no stranger to state repression. She's been sentenced to prison and made to wear an electronic ankle bracelet.
All of that for nothing. I mean, sometimes for my Instagram posts, sometimes just for walking the streets, so for just being myself.
At this point, she no longer fears the state. She's lived through too much for that. 10 years ago, Pussy Riot stormed the altar at Moscow's Christ the Saviour Cathedral. They staged a punk prayer in protest of Vladimir Putin and the power of the church. From that day on, the collective became a thorn in the side of the Russian state. The arrests were followed by a show trial. For their 41 seconds of resistance, the collective faced 7 years in prison. After an international outcry and a campaign by Amnesty International, the sentence was reduced to 2 years in a labour camp. Their protests continued, radical, unexpected and illegal. These days, Pussy Riot has focused its activism outside Russia. Calling for protests inside Russia is extremely dangerous.
Some call for action appears at internet. All political police surround their flats, so it's not only me.
Maria Alokina is cautious about disclosing too much of her future plans or her new home, knowing full well that the Russian intelligence service is not only brutal, but also active abroad. A decade on, Pussy Riot remains a voice and a force to be reckoned with.
I love Protest Russia. I mean, I know so many people which you guys don't know, and they are amazing, but I will never be any hopeful or optimistic about Putin. I think they all should go to tribunal and to prison, at least.
This morning, a new discovery inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. Behind these gigantic chevrons above the main entrance, for the first time, a look inside, a precise analysis, a real characterization of the North Face corridor.
This discovery, in my opinion, is the most important discovery on the 21st century.
The towering structure has for centuries kept secrets out of reach of scientists and archaeologists. And now, for the first time, images showing a vaulted ceiling, a corridor measuring 30 feet with 5 chambers designed to release pressure.
This corridor, it's protecting or reducing the pressure on something beneath it. It might be chamber, it might be something else. Very soon we can figure out what is the main issue of this corridor.
Inside the Great Pyramid, the possible tombs, the unknown artifacts, even the ancient construction techniques, it's all fascinated the world for the last 4,500 years.
It's wonderful that we keep getting new developments and learn new things.
Back in 2016, a cavity behind the North Face was first discovered. Scientists believed it was horizontal, and now they know it is, with perhaps a small upward slope. After 7 years of exhaustive investigation, a true picture of what it looks like. Launched back in 2015, Scan Pyramids set out to penetrate the walls of this ancient pyramid without disrupting them. No drilling required, no excavations. Using advanced cosmic ray scans in the form of muons, scientists can peer behind the thick limestone walls with technology far more powerful than any X-ray. But this morning, the questions remain. What else is behind the North Face? What's below that corridor? What is it hiding?
So many more questions, of course, but as always with these big discoveries, we want to know what was next to that, what was under that, what else is to come. What's so incredible, though, you guys, is that as technology advances, the discoveries become more frequent, the discoveries become bigger, but something like this, for example, they didn't have to do any digging, they didn't have to do any excavating. It was all done without removing one single stone from the Great Pyramid. It's pretty incredible.
It's fascinating. It is wild. And what a cliffhanger, Molly.
Yeah.
Literally, there's more to come.
Permiso, por favor, permiso. ¿Qué le piden los jueces ahora?
Que me concedan mi libertad.
El aborto es un crimen. Gracias a nuestra Constitución, El Salvador no permite el aborto desde ninguna de sus visiones.
Es un acto cruel, es un acto barbárico.
Primero dijeron que era aborto y después lo cambiaron de aborto a homicidio agravado. Me penaron para 30 años.
A mí se me ocurre que los jueces ni siquiera leyeron la autopsia. Es totalmente una conjetura que no tiene ninguna base material ni tampoco tiene base científica.
In El Salvador, abortion is prohibited in all cases.
A country that has some of the world's strictest abortion.
17 women are currently in San Salvador prison, convicted of killing their babies.
Estamos hartas de esta situación. Estamos hartas que nos sigan violentando este maldito sistema capitalista patriarcal.
Jamás en la vida se me había ocurrido que yo, Teodora Vázquez, iba a estar en una cárcel. Nunca.